We did an activity on Classkick last week where you were asked to match cards that represented the same equations. In the activity, we had cards A through F, and they represented 6 different equations, and then the remaining cards that were G through L had the same equations in a different order. So I asked you to overlap them so we could see which ones were the same. A lot of you struggled with it, so I wanted to make this video so I could walk through the assignment so you could see where your mistakes or your misunderstandings were. So let's start with card A. You are given 2 points, and you need to write the equation. So the equation requires a slope and a y-intercept, and we have 2 different strategies to find our equation. We have slope-intercept form, and we have point-slope form. I'm gonna do both of them, but let's start with slope-intercept form. That is y equals mx plus b. You can choose either one of these points to substitute. I'm going to pick the first one. That's going to be my x and my y. And we need to figure out the m. So to find the slope, we use our slope formula. And if you're not sure what that is, it is the equation that says y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's how we find your slope. So, I don't know why it keeps doing that, sorry. This is our first point, so we call that x1, y1. This is your second point, so we call it x2, y2. It's just a matter of substituting. Your slope is, 9 minus 3 over 3 minus 0. 9 minus 3 is 6, 3 minus 0 is 3, and to simplify, 6 divided by 3 is 2. That is our slope. Sorry about that. I don't know what button I hit, but anyway. So that's your slope. Now let's use our formula of slope-intercept form to find our equation. So instead of y, I'm going to use the first point of 0, 3. So instead of y, I have 3. And instead of m, we have 2, because that's the slope we just discovered, times x, which is 0, right, because we have 0, 3, plus b. We need to figure out the b. That's why we substituted all of the other values, so we can figure out what b is. So we have 3 is equal to 2 times 0, which is 0, plus b, which means that 3 is the y-intercept. And really, if I'd been paying attention, I could have figured that out from the first point, 0, 3. Your y-intercept is when x is 0. So that really, they gave it to us. But that's okay. Let's write our equation. Y equals 2x plus 3. I'm going to keep track of it over here. Y is 2x plus 3. All right, so that is A. Let's find the equation for B. This time the points are 3, 9, and 4, 7. Again, first thing we have to do is find the slope. Regardless of which strategy you're using, we need to find the slope first. Remember, it's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 7 minus 9 is negative 2, and 4 minus 3 is 1, which means our slope is negative 2. Now, I'm going to use point-slope form, and I'm going to use the first point. So this is going to be my x1 and my y1. The formula says y minus y1 is the slope times x minus x1. We're going to substitute for the x and the y and the m. So our first step is substitution. Y minus 9 equals negative 2 times x minus 3. My second step is to distribute. What am I distributing? I'm distributing the negative 2. So for my second step, I get negative 2x plus 6, because negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. My third step is to add 9 to both sides, because I'm trying to isolate the variable. Adding 9 to negative 9 makes a 0 and cancels it out. And we're left with y equals negative 2x plus 15. That's the equation for card B. So let's write that over here. And move on to C. In card C, again, we're given 2 points. We have 1, 1, and we have 4, 7. And let's use our, well, we have to find our slope. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 7 minus 1 is 6, and 4 minus 1 is 3. And to simplify, 6 divided by 3 is 2. There's the slope. I'm going to use our slope-intercept form. Let's simplify it this way. And I'm going to use the first point. So this is my x, and this is my y. So instead of y, we have 1. Instead of m, we have 2. Instead of the other, x, I have 1 plus b. 2 times 1 is 2. Now, to isolate b, our y-intercept, I'm going to have to subtract 2 from both sides. This gives me negative 1 for the y-intercept. So the equation here is y equals 2x minus 1. Now I'm going to record that over here. Hopefully I don't run out of room. 2x minus 1. All right, on to D. Okay, for D, we have the point 0, 3 and 4, 7. Now, let's find our slope. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 7 minus 3 is 4, and 4 minus 0 is 4. And to simplify, 4 divided by 4 is 1. So our slope is 1. And now look, this time we're not going to go through the extra work. 0, 3 represents the y-intercept. Your y-intercept is where x is 0. So I already have my two numbers. My equation is y equals 1 times x plus 3. And we don't even need the 1. We're just going to say y equals x plus 3. And we're done with D. All right, here we have E. So this time, I'm going to do, well, the same thing. I'm going to find our slope by taking y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Remember, when you're subtracting a negative, it's the same as adding. So 9 plus 3 over 3 minus 0, which is 3. 9 plus 3 is 12. And 12 thirds can be simplified to 4. And here again, they're giving us our y-intercept. It's negative 3. So the equation for this line is y equals 4x minus 3. 4 was the slope, and negative 3 is the y-intercept. Let's record that over here, and we'll move on to E. Not E, I mean F, my bad. So we have 0, 3. Look, again, they gave us our y-intercept. How considerate is that? And we have 1, 1. All right, finding our slope, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 1 minus 3 is negative 2, and 1 minus 0 is 1, which gives us a slope of negative 2. And they gave us the y-intercept, so I can quickly write my equation as y equals negative 2x plus 3. And now we've gone through our first 6 slopes, our first 6 equations. On the next slide, we're going to go through the remaining cards and find their partners. All right, let's start with G. So it tells you it has a slope and they give you a point. So let's use our point-slope formula. That would make sense. Remember, it's y minus y1 is the slope times x minus x1. So instead of y, well, that y we don't change. We're going to change the y1 to 23. Is equal to the slope times x minus the x1, which was 10. All right, that was our first step to substitute. Now we have to distribute the 2. So 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times negative 10 is negative 20. Last step, I need to add the inverse in order to isolate the y, because slope-intercept form has to have the y isolated. Those cancel out. 2x. All right, negative 20 plus 23 gives you plus 3. This was for card G. Now, if we look at our choices on the left, we'll see that we matched it with A. So A and G would have to go together. And you'll see I've recorded the equation on the card itself. Let's look at line H. We're given 2 points and a slope, so it would make sense to use our slope, or our point-slope form. Y minus y1 is m times x minus x1. And now it's just a matter of substituting. We have y minus 39 is 2 times x minus 20. Again, the first step was to distribute. Now we're going to, our first step was to substitute. And now we're going to do step 2 where we distribute the 2. So 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times negative 20 is negative 40. And our last step is to isolate the variable by adding the inverse. So this gives you y equals 2x. Negative 40 plus 39 is a negative 1, so we have y equals 2x minus 1, which we can see here matches with C. That was H. And I'm going to fill in the card y equals 2x minus 1. All right, now let's take a look at I. I's a little different because they only give you one of the points, and they don't give you the slope. So how are we going to find this one? Well, to make it easier on myself, I'm going to skip I and J for now, because neither of those give me enough information. So I'm hoping to go backwards through the process of elimination. So let's look down at K. K, I can figure out my equation because they give me 2 points. They give me 2, 11, and 6, 3. So I can use my slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And that gives me negative 8. That's a subtraction sign. 6 minus 2 is 4. And to simplify this, we divide and we get negative 2. Now, let's, we haven't done slope-intercept form in a while, so let's do this one. And I'm going to use the second point this time. So instead of y, I have 3. Instead of the slope, we have negative 2. Instead of x, I have 6. That came from the point, the second point, and the slope. So 3 is negative 12 plus b. And in order to isolate that variable, I want to add the opposite, or the inverse. And we get 15 is b. Now we have everything we need to write our equation. We have a slope, we have a y-intercept, so our equation is y equals negative 2x plus 15. And this was card K, and I can see it matches with B. All right, let's look at L. L only gives me the x value. It gives me 4, but that's it. But what it does give me is the slope. The slope is negative 2. Now, if I look at my list of equations, I've already found the match for B that had a slope of negative 2. There's only one other option that has negative 2, and it's F. So I know that it has to go with F, right? I know L has to go with F because that's the only other one that has a slope of negative 2. But we have to fill in our y value. So we're going to take the equation y equals negative 2x plus 3. And I'm going to substitute the x so that we can solve for the y. Because I don't know what y is. I have everything else, but we don't have the y. So y is negative 2 times 4, which was the y value that we were provided, plus 3. Y is negative 8 plus 3, which means that y is negative 5. So over here, look a little skinnier, instead of the blank, we're going to fill in negative 5. And we know that our equation has to be y equals negative 2x plus 3. And while I'm at it, let me fill in the one for K. I skipped that step. All right, so now you see we have I and J left over, and we know it's going to be between D and E. So we're going to use that information to figure out which one is which. So the way we're going to figure out which one is which is I'm going to take the point 10, 3, 7, and we have to plug it into, or we have to substitute it into both of the equations and see which one makes a true statement. So this was D, and E is y equals 4x minus 3. So this point is only going to work for one of these lines. So let's try the first one. Remember, there's x and there's y. So if this is true, if it works for the first line, if this point is on this line, then 37 would be equal to 10 plus 3. Is 37 equal to 13? No. So this point cannot be on this line. Let's try the other one. In this case, let's see, instead of y, we have 37 is equal to 4 times 10 minus 3. Well, 4 times 10 is 40. And 40 minus 3 is 37. This one works. Yay! So we know that this point falls on the line with E. So that is going to be, what is it? It's I. So I filled it in on the card on the left. Oh, I forgot to write the slope. The slope is 4. All right, so this is the last one. This has to match, right? D has to go with J because that's the only one that's left. But let's make sure, because you never want to assume, right? Because you know what that makes us? Well, I'm not going to say. So Y is 39. And if this is true, then 36 plus 3 would have to equal 39, which it does, which means that we are correct. Let's fill this in. It has a slope of 1, and the equation is y equals x plus 3. And that, my friends, is how you complete the assignment.